Training camp coverage brought to you by Consumer Tire. Breaking down all of the latest from today's practice. Here's Daryl Ryder and Coach Lance Reisland.
Day 14 of Browns training camp is in the books. It's Daryl Ryder joined by Spencer German, who's pinch hitting for Coach Riz this week. And let's get to some housekeeping first off, Spencer.
For sure.
Some good news from Browns head coach Todd Monken. Carson Schlesinger, who's missed a couple of days, actually more than just a couple of days, here at the outside of camp. He's expected to be back next week. Good news.
Yeah, obviously everyone wants to see Carson get back out there. I will say, this time of year, we know how Todd's kind of handled these practices, wants to get his starters as much playing time as possible in the preseason games within reason. Carson's one of those guys nobody's worried about, right? You'd rather know he's healthy for the start of the season. So while it's a little bit concerning that it's taken him this long to get back, good news is it sounds like he'll be back next week. Maybe he plays in that third preseason game. Maybe doesn't. As long as he's healthy for week one, I think everyone's going to be happy.
Yeah, that's all that matters. Some other housekeeping in addition to Schlesinger not practicing today. Cedric Tillman was out. Alex Wright, Mike Hall Jr., D'Angelo Ross among those on the DNP list today. They did get Zach Zinter back out on the practice field today, so that was good to see. Not so great to see Elton Jenkins. Spotted him hanging out with a trainer for a little bit during practice. That meant Luke Whippler and Kingsley Iguaquan got to spend some time at the center position. What did you see from both of those guys pinch hitting for Elton?
Yeah, listen, I thought there was some good stuff. I think a lot of the pressure in this practice, especially because there was a number of sacks at times, came more on the outside than the inside. But clearly Tom Monken's still trying to kind of rotate those guys, get different guys' looks. I also noticed on the second team that Austin Barber, who had been playing right tackle primarily, was now playing right guard primarily, and KT Leviston, who had been playing right guard primarily, was now outside playing tackle again. So I know Lance feels some type of way about KT playing guard and that he thinks he's better for that spot, but they sort of switched it up today. So there were certainly some changes up front in the trenches, both with that first unit and that second unit at center with the first team. I'm curious to see what's going on with Elton, because it looked like he did individual stuff, like he was out there with the linemen, and then once they got to team, he was kind of off talking to the trainer for a little bit, and then he just never sort of jumped back in. So we'll see what kind of update. He's been dealing with something throughout camp, but we'll see what that kind of looks like moving forward. That is theoretically your starting center, so hopefully it's nothing too serious.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, coming off of Saturday's game, obviously I think the key takeaway from Saturday's preseason opener in Chicago was not the final score. I know a lot of fans are bent out of shape over the 34-10 result. The result that I'm looking at is 10-0. That's what the Browns starters outscored the Bears. And but the key takeaway for me from that game was the depth on both sides of the football. And since we're talking about the offensive line here, I don't find it curious at all that they're shaking things up, especially with that second unit, because I really think they've got to figure out, okay, who are our swing interior linemen? Who are going to be our swing tackles behind our starting five? That's something they've got to get figured out in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Daryl. I do think the depth on a couple of areas was highlighted in that game for sure, and certainly up front in the trenches. And it's a group, by the way, that I think is still building chemistry. At least that first group in particular, didn't see a ton of success running the football. There was that first drive where Quinshawn got stuffed on the third down and short play. And so I was kind of a little bit alarmed by that, which is why I think Thursday's joint practice is going to be a really big one for that group as they try to gel, get together. So the more those guys are out, too, the more it kind of hurts that chemistry. But you're right. They got to figure out who's the swing tackle, who's going to be the swing guard, who those backup spots are going to be. And I do think that's an area of weakness right now for this team, is behind those guys who we don't even know how they're going to perform yet as a group. What does it look like? What are your options? Do you have anybody to turn to? Because as we know, Daryl, the chances that this offensive line makes it through the whole season healthy are very, very slim based on what we've seen in recent years.
Yeah, it's been a little while. We got spoiled there for a spell with health and consistency on the offensive line, and that's unfortunately has not been the case in recent years, and obviously led to a complete offseason overall. Okay, let's get to the business at hand. One roster move made today. Jermaine Terry was signed. They went ahead and waived tight end Brendan Vates with an injury designation. We'll see if he ends up back on, or I should say reverts back to the IR list here in the coming days if he goes unclaimed, but that was a roster move. Now Now to the Juice, the quarterbacks. Not a great day for showcasing the quarterbacks, but this felt like a practice today, Spencer, where everything's building to Thursday. Like Thursday to me feels like it's going to be a preseason type game, albeit controlled environment. They're going to do the red zone. They're going to be doing, very specific situations, maybe some third down and distance type of periods or fourth down and distance type of periods. But, Saturdays, the starters aren't expecting to play if they handle their business on Thursday, which makes things very interesting for Shedeur Sanders, who I made the mistake on my Sunday show of saying this is the biggest week of Shedeur's life. This is his chance, his golden opportunity.
We appreciate the bold takes, though,
to win the starting job. And then I come in today, Todd Monken lays out the schedule for the week, and I'm like, there's no way in hell Shedeur Sanders is going to win this starting quarterback job. While by the journalistic integrity law of the land, no decision has been made by the Cleveland Browns. I think the decision's been made. We're going to have Deshaun Watson in week 1.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought it was interesting because you alluded to like the practice schedule and what the plan is going to be for Thursday and then Saturday. And he had talked to Joe Brady about that, obviously, on Monday. Or I guess technically he talked to him on Sunday. Like, he did. It was weird because he said if we get what we want on Thursday, the starters probably won't play. But he also said like the older starters, so that made me think like you could see Spencer Fano out there, you could see the young receivers still out there. So it seems like Shedeur will maybe get at least some of the ones with him, or some of the guys are projecting as ones with him. But you're right, he's not going to get the exact same scenario that Deshaun got, which was here's the first team offense in all its glory, go see what you can do. And that combined with what he said in his Zoom press conference on Sunday, Daryl, I thought was really, really telling. It was the comment where he basically said, at this point, this is what I sort of – it kind of came off like he made a promise to Shedeur that this is how it was going to go. And so in the name of being fair, he's going to stick with it. And he said something like in the past tense. It was like, I did think going into Saturday was close. And that made me, the sirens went off a little bit there. It was like, you did think it was close. So now are you saying that maybe Deshaun separated himself with the way he played? Like you saw all the things you wanted to see, you checked all the boxes, and now he's separating? So I'm with you. I think going into this week, he has I don't know if we could put like a percentage on it, but I think it's like, he's like 85, 90% certain. Like, I'm going with Deshaun week 1. And that extra 10% is like, all right, if Shedeur really balls out and like kills the Bills on Thursday and has a really good preseason game, maybe I change my mind. We know he has a propensity to do that. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think reading the tea leaves here, it feels like it's very much trending towards Deshaun Watson being the quarterback week 1.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think Todd wants to be true to his word.
Yeah.
Because I think that was a problem with the previous head coach.
For sure.
That the locker room did not feel like he was true to his word with them at all times. And I think Todd Monken certainly understands, hey, I made a promise going into camp that this was going to be fair, it was going to be equitable. This was the plan that I laid out. He already made one change for a practice, taking Shedeur out from the ones and putting Deshaun in, which it was at that point I was like, yeah, this thing's over. And then Todd came back and said, yeah, that's not how this goes, and I'm enjoying all you guys speculating.
And I'm the coach, and I can do what I want, is basically what he said.
And I don't have to tell you a thing. So, yeah, I do think that this is over, and Todd, though, wants to be doing right by Shedeur.
Yeah.
Hey, I promised you to start in the second preseason game. That's what we're going to do. The fact that Thursday seems to be a Deshaun day against the Buffalo Bills, I think, is another indication. Even though he did say they're going to split the reps, but really, how much are you really going to be splitting those reps?
Well, and that'll be another key indicator, right? Like, does Deshaun take even one more series, more in 11-on-11s with the ones than him? Like, that'll kind of be a telling thing. So we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, like Todd has both said that it's not always fair in football. He can't divvy up everything evenly all the time. But he has been very adamant throughout this process of this quarterback competition. Like, he thought both guys were close. He was going to give him a fair shake. So I can respect the fact that he's trying to go about it that way. Because like you said, I think last year, I don't know that Kevin Stefanski handled it as well. He initially started by saying, like, all 4 guys have a shot. And then it didn't really look like that as soon as camp opened. Yeah. So I respect Todd for going about it that way.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Casey Concepcion. Monken was just gushing with joy at what he saw from Casey Concepcion in that preseason opener, and rightfully so. Electrifying player. The punt return was great. The catch and run, obviously, the touchdown on the jet sweep or end around, whatever you want to call it, which, by the way, we saw that play ran out here about 8 times. And they ran it the same exact way. And I came away from that preseason game thinking, listen, I feel like I'm just watching another training camp practice because they're running all the plays we've been watching. And the results of the plays are exactly what we were seeing in practice too. But very effusive in his praise for Casey Concepcion. Basically said, hey, we got to get this kid the ball as much as possible.
Yeah, and I actually asked him the question of, like, how much do you envision him being on the punt return? Because we've seen some other players. Denzel Boston's been back there. Luke Floria, Gage Larvadan. There's, I think, Tylen Wallace as well. They've all been sort of fielding punts at times throughout camp. But KC's always been, like, the first guy up. And then we saw him take the punt on Saturday. Yeah. And so it was kind of this question of, like, are they going to try to balance a little bit, like, how much he's involved in the offense and how many snaps he gets versus being a punt returner? And Todd didn't want to put a number on it. He didn't say, like, he clearly hasn't figured that out yet. But I thought it was interesting that his main takeaway from that answer was basically, this is a player that can make things happen with the ball in his hands. So we're going to try to do as much as we can to get him the ball in his hands, whether it's the sweep plays like you mentioned, whether it's punt returns, whether it's getting him in space to make plays like we saw on tape coming out of college like he thrives in. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for Casey Concepcion. We don't know yet how much he'll be returning punts, but it seems like they're pretty set in, like, we're going to get him the ball as much as possible. So certainly be looking forward to a lot of Casey Concepcion. If you're a fantasy football player, draft Casey Concepcion. He said he wants to score 3 touchdowns this year on punt returns alone. So add that to whatever total he's going to get receiving as well.
Yeah, getting the football into your playmakers' hands, what a novel concept. We're just not really used to that here in Cleveland. Of course, we're not used to them having playmakers either. So that is also going to be a nice change of pace for them. All right. Really no big standout play because, again, there was a lot of half speed, 3/4 speed. I mean, look, the practice ended on Deshaun Watson trying to draw the defense off sides on a fourth and two.
Yeah.
Yeah, so which did not work, by the way. I heard 4 different cadences. None of them worked. Nobody moved. And Todd said, to hell with this. We're getting off the practice field. That's the day. So we don't have a play of the day for you today because, quite frankly, there really wasn't a play of the day. Outside, though, I did want to talk about the red zone, the 10 yards in that they ran. Both Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson got about 5 snaps. And lo and behold, and it's hard to say because they're not really tackling, but it looked to me like a lot of touchdowns were scored, so that was a positive.
Yeah, I think Deshaun had at least 2. He hit Gage Larvadan on one, and then there was one sort of like under pressure, threw it to the back of the end zone to Luke Floria, and Luke Floria toe-tapped. I think that one might have been a sack. I can't remember correctly. Don't quote me on that. But he had a couple. Shedeur had a couple. He had a nice one to Harold Fannin. There was another one where basically from the backfield, Dylan Sampson just ran like an arrow route to the end zone, and he kind of hit him as his momentum was carrying him in. It was a nice pass. So that was the only session I feel like we really saw any big scoring plays or big plays. Maybe you could argue one of those was the play of the day. But yeah, there wasn't the highlight reel plays today. We'll see what that looks like tomorrow. They're supposed to be in full pads tomorrow on a Deshaun with the ones day. But I'm with you. I don't know that there was like a standout play today, unless you wanted to highlight somebody getting a sack on defense, because there's plenty of those today.
Well, you know what? I think that's a perfect segue here. We do our camper of the day. It's the second most popular portion of this program outside of our daily quarterback evaluation. Let's go with your camper of the day. Who do you got?
I'm going with Michael Coates Jr.
Okay.
I thought Michael Coates Jr. had a really good day on Saturday before he left the game with the ankle injury. He was back out there today, healthy. Todd had kind of said he thought he was going to be okay. He was out there playing, and at least 3 times I saw him in a play where he was breaking up a pass or in tight coverage, nearly picked off Deshaun Watson at one point on a ball that was kind of low and inside, and he tried to kind of cut it off. So really nice job from him. And Daryl, in a room, as we know, that is desperate for depth at the cornerback spots. You know you got Denzel, you know you got Tyson Campbell. But if one of those guys gets hurt, it's like, holy crap, what's going on back here? It's the island of misfit toys behind them. I think Michael Coates is absolutely carving out a role where he seems destined to make this team at this point, barring an injury or barring some crazy setback. I think he's maybe one of the front runners. Miles Harden's in there too, but he's one of the front runners to be part of that group.
Well, we are in late August now, and that's when things tend to separate when you're talking about the back end of the roster. A very couple of weeks of importance coming up here for those guys that are on the proverbial bubble and trying to earn themselves a job. That's going to do it out here at Cross Country Mortgage Campus, day 14, Browns Training Camp. Again, presented by Consumer Tire. My thanks to Spencer German for pinch hitting for Coach Lance Reisland. Spencer's going to be back tomorrow. We'll get things rolling once again following practice number 15. We inch closer and closer to that very big joint practice on Thursday afternoon with the Buffalo Bills. That's going to be a big one, and of course we'll have a coverage for you right here on the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel. Thanks as always for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Like, dislike, leave us a comment or 2 or 3. We appreciate you taking the time to watch us. For Spencer German, Darrell Ryder signing off here as Browns Training Camp 2026 rolls along right here on the Fan YouTube channel.